What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA podcast, part of the All-City Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mares, and I am joined today by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, we got another in-season tournament showdown tonight, this time in Vegas, the real deal. It feels like it gets real tonight. Semifinal games, and we had a bunch of games in the association today. Are you ready to talk some hoops?
I'm ready to talk some hoops, man. You know what's weird last night and I guess it was just a feeling that I had because it's not really accurate, but because they didn't have any games, what was it, like Sunday? And then there was right. A couple other nights where there was only in-season play, the final eight playing, right? So last night you had a full slate. It felt like these guys hadn't played in like an all-star break type of break. Yeah. Didn't it feel that way? And some of the numbers guys put up last night, maybe that's how
box scores.
They were fresh. We had some fresh legs last night, man, and guys were busting the box scores out. That's for sure.
And they were like, there weren't a lot of marquee matchups, right? There was a lot of games that you think like, okay, lopsided, this or that, and it made for some really, really weird box scores. We're going to talk about that today. We had some great mailbag questions, including a question about building on two timelines, something Steph Curry's Warriors have tried to do, something the Denver Nuggets currently are sort of trying to do, and a handful of other teams. So is it even possible in today's NBA? And then later on in the show, as we have been doing for these in-season tournament games, we're going to go deep dives on both the games, Pacers, Bucks, who has the advantage in different categories, best matchups, X factors, all of that and more. It's going to get you ready for tonight's in-season tournament semifinal. But first, got to tell you that we are presented by DraftKings Fantasy Sports. Check out what DraftKings has to offer this season with code ALLNBA. Because life's more fun when you're in on the action. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com for details. I was informed last night, Legs. I did not know this, but our producer, Emma, tells me she is an expert handicapper. So she said, listen, I got to be the one to give you guys your betting advice on the show. So we might have to check Easy Money Emma for some betting advice.
Let Emma be responsible then for people like losing their money. I hate doing that. I hate doing it. Let Emma be the one.
Exact same. So yeah, last night, I want to start with this. Last night, Joel Embiid goes for 50 points. You had Desmond Bane go for 49 points. I'll bet he thought he was going to have the best. It's always a bummer when a player has the best night of his career and doesn't get the headline because somebody else went even higher than him. He goes for 49 points and doesn't even make the marquee. And then you had Luka Doncic with a triple-double in the first half. You're right, crazy numbers. Was there a game or a performance that stood out to you last night?
So with so many games, Owen, obviously, you got to kind of pick and choose. I did watch a lot of the Sixers-Wizards. I watched a decent amount of the second half of Nets-Hawks. I watched I was going to watch the Mavericks-Jazz, but that got out of hand pretty quickly. I watched, and then the two late games were the two main focus. I actually talked about both games on SVP last night. So we had both of them side by side. I was kind of really trying to intently watch both of the Warriors, Blazers, and Nuggets, Clippers games as well. I think the one that probably jumped out to me, I'd say the two late games. And Golden State, it's a 6-win team you're playing against. You're at home, and yet it felt like the biggest relief in the world for them to win that game. And that's unfortunately the state of where we are right now with the Warriors. I mean, they dug themselves quite a hole. You've got a lot of guys not playing well at the same time. So any win at all is important to them right now. But man, like how long is it going to be, or will it be, that Klay Thompson busts out of this? Because last night was one of the worst ones we've seen. The ball didn't even look right coming off his hand. And then he had a back cut. He missed an uncontested reverse layup. Like you just start to go, okay, this is more than a guy is just kind of out of rhythm right now and struggling a little bit because we're 21 games in for the Warriors. And he has struggled mightily. Andrew Wiggins can't find his offense. So that game kind of stood out from the standpoint of, hey, they rallied late. Curry actually had more made field goals in the game than Thompson, Green, and Chris Paul combined.
Man,
Okay, so he kind of did it by himself, got some help from Moody and Kuminga. The young guys stepped up for them, and they get a win. It felt like a relief. And then your game, Nuggets Clippers, that felt, obviously Jokic didn't have a very good game, but it also kind of felt like I'm watching the Clippers a little bit saying, man, do you really want to have to play them if Kawhi Leonard is healthy in the playoffs?
Oh, no.
Like if that's your first round opponent and you end up with one of those top seeds and you end up with the Clippers, that would be maybe a nightmare scenario because they've got so much talent and 3 guys that can win any matchup. So that was my overall take from the night. How about you? What other than the Nuggets Clippers game, which I guess made it difficult for you to watch anything else?
Well, it was a crazy game because Jokic, he's shooting more this year than ever before. But last night, I think a lot of that is, he's a great scorer. He's efficient. He does I think he's getting more confidence in his scoring. Last night, he was a chucker. This is the first time I've ever said this about Nikola Jokic in his entire, I don't know how many games he's into his career right now, 1,000 plus or whatever. He has never been a chucker. He was a chucker last night, and it was really strange. 9 of 32. And I don't know if there's something to it, what you saw, but it's actually 2 games in a row. The Nuggets have owned the Clippers. I think they've beat them something like 16 of the last 20 times or something of that. So they've dominated that matchup, but last game he was 8 of 23, and this game 9 of 32. Those for Jokic, that's like ice cold shooting night. Is there anything you saw from what they did last night that made you think, hey, they have something, they figured something out about it?
To me, and again, I had one eye on each game, so it's a little bit tougher because I didn't know at the time going in which game I was going to have to talk about after. Because if I knew that, then I could have just focused in. So it's a little bit harder to get the nuances of it. But I would watch stretches, and you're right. I felt like every time I kind of, whatever, there'd be like a timeout or something in the Warriors game. So then I would focus for like 3-4 minutes straight on the Nuggets game. And I was like, it did feel like he was just missing shots. For great players, like you rarely think it's the defense. Rarely.
Right.
Not guys on Jokic's level. No, like sometimes that second tier guy, a team will introduce something defensively and you could say that really affected them, or certainly a role player. You got a shooter and a team just says, hey, don't leave him, chest to chest responsibility, right? And now you go, okay, that guy only got 2 shots off tonight. Here's why. Great players, guys on Jokic's level, it really isn't about the defense. It just isn't, because they get too many opportunities in the course of the game. The ball is they're like a magnet for the basketball. It keeps finding them multiple times in possessions the entire time they're on the court. I don't chalk it up to defense typically when you see great players struggle.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, by the way. It was weird that he was forcing shots. I think he got mad at himself. And sometimes Yoke, when he gets frustrated, will double down on the thing that's frustrating him. And I think last night was that. He was missing shots. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to shoot until I start making them. And he never really did. So just a weird one. They did get Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon back. It's the first time they had their starting lineup start the game since for over a month. I think November 4th was the last time. So Denver excited for that game and then drops it. Let me ask this one. 50 points, 49 points, 41-point triple-double. Some crazy numbers this year, and we're seeing it. Last year, there was all these 30-point scores. This year, I think there's 5 or 6 again. What do you make of the numbers this year? And does it make you, when you see so many high-scoring games and triple-doubles and all this stuff, does it make you, how do we readjust our minds to, okay, this is the new NBA. 30 today, that might be like 25, 15 years ago. It changes. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, and by the way, you left out Paolo Banchero with 42 last
42?
night, right? Another guy with a career high last night. I do think, for me personally, doing this every night, I'm watching games. Every day I'm studying box scores. I have become a little bit numb to some of these great nights. Right? I mean, it used to be like a guy got 40 and you were like, man, like that dude went off. It's so frequent now with not just the big individual nights, but these numbers that teams are posting on a given night. It's you become a little bit desensitized to how great it is. I think, look, there are a variety of reasons for it. The biggest I will say this: the number one reason, and some people might think, is I'm a former player from a different era,
Yeah.
that I'm going to say it's lack of physicality and you can't put hands on people. I would say that's probably my second reason.
Yeah.
I think the first reason, there are more highly skilled shot makers on the court than there have ever been. Period. End of story. More highly skilled shot makers on rosters. I mean, what these because I see guys come in off the bench even. Even the other night, like I'm watching the Bucks game and AC Green comes in and AJ Green hits 3 straight threes in about 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Has barely played, hasn't put numbers up for them, gets 3 open looks and drains them. There are more guys littered throughout these rosters that are just elite level shot makers if they have any sort of time and space. There's more guys that can create their own offense as well. Side steps and step backs and all the different things these guys work on in the summer to perfect. So that's the number one reason. There are just more elite level skilled players up and down rosters. Used to be there was fewer on rosters, and then you had like a bunch of role players and it's something specific, and you had some grinders that weren't out there to do anything offensively. It's not the case anymore. Just about every single player on the court can score, and that wasn't the case before. So I think that's part of it. And then, yeah, you cannot deny that the freedom of movement that players have doesn't contribute to this. Like that, you're just being silly if you're a modern player that's in the league now or just recently retired, and you're going to hold on to the fact you think that this league's as physical as it used to be and as difficult to score as it used to be. It's just a silly argument because it's just not true. So when you combine the two, more skill, less physicality, more freedom of movement, boom. You get 125, 130 a lot, and you get 140-point games occasionally, and you get a whole bunch of dudes getting 30 on a given night when there's a full slate.
This is why you're the best, Tim, because I haven't heard people make this argument. It's always the physicality or this or that, but I honestly agree with you. There's the bad players in the NBA today. Most of them can now shoot. Like we got to teach them every other aspect of the game, but we got 7 guys that can shoot 40% on a wide open 3 in a game. And when you do that, it becomes impossible to help. And then, of course, that physicality aspect. And then your point is made by the fact that I didn't even bring up Paolo Banchero. Because in my head, when you brought him up, my head went to, yeah, he only had 42, though. Like that, he didn't have a crazy night. He just had 42. It's like, come on, man. 42 is now a throwaway. So, yeah, this is what I took away. And last night was a fun one. Rested teams and some lopsided matchups, and we get a crazy, crazy box score night. Producer Emma, Easy Money Emma, let's go ahead and get to our mailbag. We have some mailbag questions, to get to here as we see our beautiful graphic. How important, this one comes from AJ. Oh, man, I'm pros. How important are consistent rotations to players? Tibbs drives me crazy when he pulls guys who just made 2 straight shots because it's the 6-minute mark. But Tibbs is obviously doing something right. Help me understand, Legs. So you were a role guy. How important is it to know this is my rhythm in the game?
Critical to role players, and that's I think the guys we're talking about, because his comment about Tibbs pulling a guy after making 2 straight shots at the 6-minute mark, guarantee you that's applying to starters, right? That's a starter, because starters, particularly your top guys, they're guys that you're just they're getting a heavy minute load every single night, and you're going to be more cognizant of that. That happens all over the league. I mean, you'll see even Curry. I've seen him hit 3 straight threes in a 4-minute stretch, but it's his time to come out of the game. He's coming out of the game, right? But when you see a role player maybe bang out a couple of shots in a row, you might then extend his run a little bit to maximize what you're going to squeeze out of that guy on a given night. But I just know for me, as a guy that came off the bench my entire career, it is so important mentally to get yourself into a place when you're going to go into the game. Washington, I go back to that year, 95, 96, I led the league in 3-point shooting. I was backing up Calbert Chaney, was our starting 2 guard. All right, I was going to play about 24, 25 minutes a night. I played about the same minutes he did. And I knew I was going into the game right at about the 3 to 4 minute mark left in the first quarter. And you start to get yourself going. So you sit there, you watch the first 8, 9 minutes. Now you get that like adrenaline's kicking in. You're about to go in. And I will say during those years that I was playing, like that was the most consistent rotation that I saw, and I thrived in that. It's very difficult when you don't know night to night necessarily how that's going to go. And so I think it is critical for role players, not as important necessarily for starters. They understand that sometimes they're going to maybe sit a little bit longer after they've come out if the guy that went in for them is really playing well. At the end of the day, they're going to get to their 34, 35. One way or another, if that's what they averaged, for the most part, they're going to get there without foul trouble. And so the role players are the guys we're talking about. And I do think mentally, it definitely helps you prepare yourself for when you're about to get up and go check in, and it's going to be after this dead ball or the next trip. He's probably going to call my name because you're looking at the clock and you know what's going on. So I do think it matters.
To your point about starters, there's not a huge difference between 31 and 34 minutes. You still have time to get a rhythm, right?
Sure.
But if role player, the difference between 15 and 11 minutes is big. It's like, hey, man, I did a 4-minute stint. I didn't have even time to get I know I missed 2 shots, but like I might have made the next 2. It's just the rhythm of it. So I do think there's something to it. At the same time, it's tough with younger players. I'm obviously covering Denver right now, and there are some guys that they're given 2, 3, 4 minutes. And if they're not good, they're pulled, and they kind of know that. And then it gets in their head of, I got to perform and, I got to not make mistakes and make my shots. And I think they can compound and build some pressure. So it is a strange one.
I'll give you real quick, if I can just follow up an example of that. We talk about this guy quite a bit, Jonathan Kuminga. He's a great example. So a couple games ago, Steve Kerr raved it was the best game he has played as a Golden State Warrior. Okay, and this is the guy everybody's, we're constantly waiting for the breakthrough, right? Because he got so much natural ability, athletic ability, and they desperately need him. Comes back to the next game, plays 10 minutes. And then last night, a DNP in the first half. Now, to his credit, because when he checked in the game last night, I made a joke. I'm sitting there watching the game, and I said, man, look, he's half asleep. Like, he just didn't look ready. Right. He went out there, he kind of was tying his drawstring on his shorts and kind of, shuffling out onto the court. He had a breakaway pretty quickly, and I'm thinking, they're down 6, something like that at the time. Go windmill this thing. Do a Vince Carter-style windmill and get this place hopping because they need your energy. He goes up, he kind of does a 2-hand little lay over the front of the rim, and I'm like, okay, this guy, what's up with this guy? But you know what? His credit, he kept playing. He got a sweat going, and I don't think they win the game without what Kuminga did. He made his first 6 shots. They don't win the game without him. But to your point, Adam, I think that's a great example of what you're talking about. I think that's where they're at with him. Does he look ready? If he doesn't look ready in the first 4 or 5 minutes, he might be done for the night. And that, so there are guys that fall into that category too. It's more about motor because they see this guy every day and they can tell right away, is the motor turned on tonight? And he's probably going to get more run in that case.
I love your point about the dunk, though. There was I think it was Kings Pelicans, where there was a breakaway dunk, and I remember the bench getting excited, and the guy lays it in, and the whole bench was like, "Hey, man, this is an exclamation point! Get this crowd going! Get them up!"
If you're capable, look, I could dunk, but I guarantee you pretty easily. But I can guarantee you, if I had a breakaway in an NBA game, I'm probably laying that thing in because I can't.
How many
One thing,
did you have?
Your point. A role-playing 3-point shooter can't miss a dunk in a game. I guarantee on a breakaway. You got a problem. You might not see the court for 3 days.
That's hilarious. On the flip side, you make a breakaway dunk in a game, that's an all-timer. Everybody's the whole crowd is going
have to stop the game. Everybody's on the court. If that happens, what's funny is I think my coach, the guys I played for, and this was way before it was acceptable. Like it is now, I think they'd rather on a breakaway, they'd rather me had stopped and pulled up, shot a 3 because it was uncontested. They know that's got a really high chance of going in, and it's worth the risk reward to get the extra point.
Yeah. I love this question. It's our title question. Can or should contenders go the path of the 2 timeline concept? Competing for a championship and developing a new young core, is it possible, and which teams have successfully done this in the past? So the 2 teams that come to mind most recently for me are the Warriors, who got Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody. They had all those picks. They could have traded them and got a new veteran player, tried to say, hey, look, we're winning. Let's keep going. Instead, they made a bet that their core was still going to be good while they developed Kuminga, Wiseman, and Moody. And then those guys by now were going to be great role players that extended the window even longer. I think Denver is doing this. They've actually been open about this. They win last year. They end up using 3 draft picks. They traded to get more draft picks. And now they're playing Christian Brown, who's a second-year player, Peyton Watson, who's basically a rookie, redshirt rookie, Julian Strawther, who's a rookie. three guys that all have, under 2,000 minutes or whatever in their entire careers. So they're trying to do a two timeline thing. Do you think it's possible? And what is the limit between how many young guys you can have on a team that can win a title?
All right. First, it's incredibly difficult to do. And I want to say, like, here's what I think. If you're a contending team in the NBA, you're really playing for something meaningful, or at least you're in the mix, and you're playing young guys, the reason you're playing those guys is because they earned those spots to be in that situation. Like, there's not a veteran on your bench that you think is going to be better for your team in that spot, or you're playing that guy, I guarantee you. So when you see teams that are like in that upper echelon with young guys, first and second year players in the rotation, yeah, it's great that they're getting the minutes, and the organization is very happy that, because that's how you develop quicker. But I'm telling you right now, they're not going to do that at the risk of potentially hurting your rotation, because there's a guy on the end of your bench that you're not worried about developing because he's a veteran that can help you more. They're just not going to do it. It organically works out that they're earning those minutes. And even your example with Golden State, look, they're a big reason why I thought they could possibly repeat last year going into the season, because I said, well, they got these guys you mentioned, Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman, and like this is the next wave. Yeah, this is the next wave. But guess what? You saw what happened. Push comes to shove. Steve Kerr, as the year went on, he had less faith in those guys, less trust.
Yeah.
He didn't trust them. So if you're really trying to develop young players, and mostly I think we're talking about the bottom half teams in the league, and you're bad for a reason. You've been bad. You draft high draft picks. Those guys need to get on the court. Like, you're literally not worried as much about winning games as you are developing those players. San Antonio's in that boat right now. They don't care about wins and losses. Right. All they care about is developing Wembanyama and a couple of those other guys. If you have young guys playing on contenders, it's because it organically played out that they've earned those minutes. And now you get a bonus that you are getting young guys that are getting meaningful minutes to develop, but you're not sacrificing anything, because those are the best choices for those minutes.
Here's the difference between what the Warriors have done and are continuing to do and what the Nuggets are doing. The Warriors aimed for stars. Wiseman was raw. Everybody knew he was like a project, and they thought we can turn him into a star player, not just a role player. Kuminga, same thing, kind of raw, like super athlete. He can be great. Moody, I think, is the one guy that was projected to be a role player. But if you look at Denver, Christian Brown is not a star. He has zero star potential. He has elite role player potential. Peyton Watson, I think, is similar, and Julian Strawther is similar. So I think Denver, and the other difference is the market. I think that Golden State probably could have bet on getting more veteran players, like high-level veteran players, to go to Golden State. There's just so much opportunity there on, off the court and everything else. But Denver, I think, looked at it and said, we're not going to get the high-level veterans in buyout situations going to spend the end of their career there. We're not going to ever get those. We have to develop high-level role players. And that's why it's interesting. Like right now, Denver has Justin Holiday, who's a veteran player who is good, but you know what he is. You know what his ceiling is. And Denver has to decide, is he good enough that we can just play him and win a title? Because the starting five, expensive starting five, great starting five. You don't have any money to spend. Do you play guys like Justin Holiday, and every year you just have to find a new one? It's a real question. It's a real question, in my opinion. They're making the bet early this season that they can develop their guys to be better than that, and we'll see what happens.
I will say also, it helps if you got young guys and you want to try to give them a taste. When you've got a guy like Jokic, who is just that smart and makes everybody's life that much easier, with his ability to take all the pressure on himself by having the ball that much, making great decisions and making you better with his passing. Or you're in a system like Golden State that is a pass first oriented team. You've got a chance, man. There's going to be minutes there for a young player, because the guys around you are going to make you smarter on the court as you're learning the game. But in general, I think it's very difficult to pull off both. If you have young guys that are contributing to winning at a high level and you're actually playing for something meaningful in May and June, I think it just worked out that way, that those guys were better for that spot than anything else you have on the bench that's got more experience.
I think this one, LeBron James's career can be told through this very concept, because he went to Miami, he leaves Cleveland, goes to Miami, and it's like, we got to win. 4 years. And when he left, we don't need young guys. We don't need young guys. We need vets. And then when that was up, it was like, there's no rebuild. There's nothing here. Goes to Cleveland, same thing. Andrew Wiggins for number 1 pick. Get him out of here. We don't need a number 1 pick. We need Kevin Love. We need Kyrie Irving. Then he goes, obviously to LA. So I just look at his arc and think maybe he knew something of, you can't do 2 timelines, but naturally that means your windows are sort of short as a team because you're keeping together an expensive group of veterans. And once that's up, there's nothing to replenish. And we'll see if there is a next dynasty, a next team that does it right, that has a window that lasts, that spans 6-7 years. I think it's going to be really, really tough to do. Let's see. This question, which defensive wrinkles attempted this season to stop stars have been your favorites to watch or consider? Think OKC doubling Luka every play, how teams guard Curry night in, night out. Is there a favorite sort of weird adjustment defensively you like?
I'm not seeing anything new. And actually, I'll go the other way. I think teams, in terms of their defensive game plan, preparation, and scheme, are far more reluctant to overload too much attention to a star player because of the amount of shooting that's on the court.
Yeah.
We talked about in the beginning, these video game type numbers that these teams are putting up, it's not a coincidence because there's somebody at every spot on the court that can hurt you. You're either a shooter, you're a guy that can get your own off the dribble, or you're a slasher that finishes everything because there's all kinds of space in the lane. Like you're not out there. You don't have guys out there anymore, man. There's just to set screens and a rebound. Like every single guy on the court can put the ball in the basket. And some of these top guys, particularly with their passing as well, I think teams are more reluctant than ever. I think when I watch now, I see more great players get opportunities to get comfortable with maybe one guy or 1.5 defenders than you're seeing like blitzes and force guys to give it up because there's too many guys on the court that can hurt you. And coaches, even if you start out with that kind of game plan, let 3 corner threes be made against you. Watch how fast they get out of that. They overreact and panic when they think, you know what, we're going to live with that corner 3 out of these role players. Let's just live with it all night. Really, after the third one, you're calling timeout, and they're going, you know what, just stay home with those guys. Like, it's amazing how fast something you thought was a good idea in film room and in your walkthrough goes out the window when in practice, guys start making shots against you because you're willing to leave them. So I think actually I see less actual real creativity defensively with how you're going to deal with these guys because you're so worried about the supplemental offense that's on the court.
I think it's a great take. Yoke, I mentioned earlier, is taking more shots this year. And one of my theories as to why is through the playoffs last year, he saw that his scoring was so important that a lot of teams made the decision you just explained. Yoke can beat you both ways. You got to pick one, and the best one to pick is to make him a score. The Suns did this, by the way, I think in game 3 of the series where they won. Yoke went for 53 points. 53. He dominated, but they lost the game. And Phoenix made the calculation of, hey, he's going to have to go for 55 to beat us. So I do think you're right about this, that in a weird way, it's almost maybe not got more complex, but more simplified because teams are saying nobody can stop anybody anymore. So make one guy beat you rather than all the things beat you. Is Jaylen Brown good enough to be the second best player on a contender, or should he be third best if you're aiming for the Larry O.B.? What do you make of Jaylen Brown?
Oh my goodness, it's a tough one because he's right there in the borderline. Yeah, he's like if he's your 2.5 best player, right? That's exactly how I look at it. Like, so put it this way, I think on a team where there's clearly a number 1, which he's on right now, and then any given night it could be him or another guy, right? So
isn't that the case now?
I don't know Porzingis? That. Like you're saying with Porzingis?
Yeah, I mean,
no.
I will say the collective of Porzingis, White, and Drew.
Yeah, I think clearly Jaylen Brown is your second best player, like on this team. Yeah. So, and look, that doesn't mean that on a given night maybe Porzingis can outplay him, but consistently it's Tatum and Brown. Mostly Tatum as your number 1 on a given night. Every now and then it's Brown actually will be your best player if he really gets cooking. But then there's a little bit of drop off, right? So I think if he's on a team where it's you got that one guy and then it's him and another guy, you don't really know, like on a night to night basis, who's it going to be? Then maybe you have a championship caliber team. I think when he is clearly slotted in as number 2, and look, they might win it this year now because here's the other thing: it's almost like I'm being too compartmentalized. Because here's the other thing. Yes, I think Porzingis is a notch down, but my goodness, look at what that team has beyond their top two guys. Like if you have that much talent and depth and shot making, then the Boston Celtics might win the whole thing this year with Jaylen Brown as clearly your number two because 3 through 8 are so good, or 3 and 4 certainly. So there's more context to it than just that. Because if it's just Tatum and Brown, and then like your third guy was like Buddy Hield, I don't think that's going to be quite good enough. That's not a knock at Buddy Hield, but I'm saying Porzingis is a guy that more consistently is going to get you 20 plus, and he's going to affect the game of both ends. So right now he's your number two, and they might win a championship because there's so much more there besides those two guys on both ends of the floor.
Our last question from the mailbag here is, what is the best way to maximize Zion and Brandon Ingram? Can these two ultimately work together to be a true contender, assuming health? Is there a two-man synergy between these guys? Is there a game to be had, or is it a little bit of Tatum and Brown, him and me, and we kind of operate separately?
Very much how it is, because if you think about it, when Brandon Ingram gets operating, and he did the other night, they win that game because of how good he was. Really, he gets operating like that, and he's going into his mid-range ISO, or they run ball screen for him. Where does Zion fit into that? He's not a spot up shooter off the ball. He can slash, I guess, if Ingram gets double teams, and there was a couple examples that the other night, but for the most part, when Ingram gets going like that, man, he's looking to score. Like he's getting and so that means that Zion, his best bet in those situations is to be an offensive rebounder. I don't think that they can't play together and thrive, because they kind of have done that a lot. But if you're asking like, how can they, get action where they're both complementing each other at the same time, it's very difficult unless you put Zion as the screener and Brandon Ingram as the ball handler. And Brandon Ingram is a good passer. He's not an elite level passer. To come off, let Zion set the screen and slash dive, whatever he's going to do, well, then you got to have an array of deliveries to him. You got to have a pocket pass. You got to have a direct line pass, from your eyes to his chest. You got to throw lobs. If he's the pick dive guy, that's not really Brandon Ingram's wheelhouse. So you can run it, and it's going to create a lot of attention for those two guys. But is Brandon Ingram the right guy to deliver the ball to Zion on those situations? So their games don't really complement each other, but they can certainly be on the court and both thrive on given nights because they touch the ball enough, and they're both dominant offensive players.
Do we have an example of this? Do we have an example of a number one and number two who don't necessarily have a two-man game, and where they're both? Well, but they haven't won. I'm looking at examples of teams that have won recently, because LeBron and Kyrie kind of have this, but LeBron, that wasn't a 1A, 1B situation. That was LeBron's team, and he had an outlet, like a release valve that could score on anybody. I don't know if we have one of these where it's like the top two guys kind of operated independently and it worked. I can't think of one.
No, that's a great point. And that's why you've seen more of the versions of teams where they've put together guys in a short window that they've acquired one way or another and said, let's go win. There's more failures than successes doing that. Yeah. For that reason, it's hard to play that way stylistically and have both guys be efficient. And also, by the way, the rest of your supporting cast be efficient and comfortable. It's a hard way to play. It's a hard way to win. And Tatum and Brown haven't won anything yet. And I actually used this exact example many times with them. It's interesting because they don't really complement each other in that they're never really involved in action together. It's very much possession by possession. Where the ball goes first, that guy is typically going to drive that possession because they're going to attack every time they get it. Both of those guys are looking to do something constructive. You don't see them just put it above their head and throw an entry pass into the post and go chill. When they get the ball, they're going one way or another. They are looking for their shot. And it's very rarely do you see them involved in screening for each other or some sort of scissor action where they're, like Clay and Steph do off the ball. They don't really do that kind of stuff. And that they've won a ton of games and they've been on the cusp of winning. They just haven't quite gotten there. Maybe this will be the year with the extra talent they brought in.
It's interesting, man. I didn't think. I mean, we all kind of know this, but I hadn't really thought about it until just now about how there is no example. It'd be nice if there was one, 1 in 25 years where you're like, well, they could be like the, but I can't think of a single one that really fits that. There was some kind of synergy between every championship duo. All right, let's take a break. Second half of the show coming up. We got to talk about the previews for tonight's game, the in-season tournament. They head to Las Vegas. I'm curious to see how that's going to look and feel, and if this can continue to have some of these great games that we've had so far. But first, NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets, throwing down just $5 on any NBA game. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. You can even do the DraftKings parlays. Maybe we'll have easy producer Emma hop in here and give us a good parlay for tonight's game. Maybe she has a couple of these. So basketball is more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code ALLNBA. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code ALLNBA. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensed partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 or older, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Oh, man. So Emma tells me here, Legs, she does have a parlay tonight. Emma, hop in here. I want to hear this parlay. You got a parlay. What is it?
I do. We're going to double our money tonight. I'm taking Tyrese Halliburton, 20-plus points, Damian Lillard, 20-plus points, Chris Middleton, 10-plus points, Giannis Antetokounmpo, over 27.5 points. Took that at a plus 102. Put a unit on it, double your money.
That's
easy
it, huh?
money.
I think I love every single one of those, and I'm going to be honest. Every number you just spit out, I thought was on the low side. Every
100%, 100%. But we're playing safe. We're doubling money today. It's our first one. Let's see where we're at.
Especially in a game that, with the way these two teams play, I mean, this could be 140, 135.
Oh yeah.
Or it could be 140, 110 Milwaukee. So I'm a little bit worried that this could be a little too much for Indiana tonight. But I think all of those numbers for scoring totals, I'd be surprised actually if any of those guys didn't hit that number.
That's what I'm saying. We're just trying to double our money today. Start off easy. The first one will light. We'll get some bigger ones going later.
You make it sound so easy. I'm thinking about emptying every account I have. I mean, that's literally what you're doing to me right now. We're just going to double our money. Anybody interested in doubling your money out there?
It's guys. There's no reason why they shouldn't hit this.
All right, Emma, throw it in the chat so I can see.
I thought when you said Giannis, that you started to say. I thought you were going to say like 32 or something, where you kind of go, okay, that's a big number, but I still probably would have said he'll get that.
Yeah. Tonight, overs I think are on the menu for sure. Emma, throw that in the chat so everybody can see it and follow along. And then tomorrow we can give her hell if she's wrong. Let's get into these matchups though. Pacers Bucks tonight. DraftKings Bucks they have the Bucks as 5-point favorites. These two teams did match up previously. They played earlier about a month ago, 126-124. This one did not feature Damian Lillard. He was not in the game. Giannis, you see there, went for 54 points. So no defense in this game. We know the overs are high. Giannis 54 last time in a loss. The Bucks shot 54% in a loss, and Tyrese Halliburton with the 29-10 game. All right, let's just break this one down. What is the Pacers' advantage in this game, Legs?
I'm not sure that they have one. I'm being honest here. Like, the Bucks play fast too. So, you can say, hey, the Pacers, they're gonna speed you up, and they're gonna run and just come out and just absolutely, push the ball down the floor so fast, get you back on your heels, maybe get you behind, and now you've got to play maybe faster than you like. The Bucks are perfectly comfortable if that's how you want this thing to look. You want to get into a track meet, Fine. That's why he had 54 points against them. Like all those opportunities with the ball being thrown ahead, and he's got space, and they're not very big, by the way. The Pacers, they play 4 guards or 3 guards, a small forward, and Miles Turner. Like that's what they play. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, if you don't have some beef out there and some bodies willing to throw themselves in front of his driving lanes in the open floor, like he's going to gut you. So I don't know that they do, like even from a three-point shooting perspective. What did Milwaukee make the other night? 23 for 38?
Yeah.
Like they're cool with that. You want to shoot? Let's both shoot 40, 45 threes. We're cool with that. Let's go. You want to play up and down? We got the guys to do that.
Well, I don't know about it, Legs. So here's the thing. I'm going to push back on the up and down part because I think that you're right that the Bucks don't mind. They score very easily, but they are not necessarily a fast break team. What they are is they can score comfortably in the half court team. Like or they can score comfortably. You get down the court, you run your pick and roll, whatever, and you score quick in the possession, but not necessarily fast breaks. And looking at the numbers here, Indiana is number 1 in the NBA in fast break points. The Bucks are 21st in fast break points allowed and 9th in turnovers. So if there is an advantage, the Pacers don't have a good defense, but they can try to make this game more chaotic. For me, Pacers thrive in chaos. The Bucks thrive in controlled pace. Those are different things. So to me, I do think there's something to, can the Bucks make this game a little bit more just sloppy? Hey, let's get out and go quick. Let's speed everybody up. I think that is their ticket to winning this game because you're right, they're the worst team. So I think their ticket is to trying to raise the variance, raise the chaos to it, and just getting fast break points.
I think if Indiana doesn't make 23s, or if not 20, let's say it's 16, 15, but at a really high percentage, they're in deep trouble. I think they're in deep trouble. Like I said before, it's the way that Indiana has played and having a guy like Halliburton, the way he's playing, and they're obviously high-powered, and they're capable on any given night of putting a big number and being in a game. So I won't be shocked if I think the Bucks are going to win the game. I won't be shocked if it's a 8-point win. I won't be shocked if it's a 35-point win, because if the Bucks get rolling and they against a team that's they did some nice things defensively the other night against Boston, actually, when they went chest to chest with some of their shooters and allowed Brown and Tatum to operate in one-on-one and say, take as many shots as you want. And they had 62 points between them, and they really limited clean looks for the role players for the most part. That was strategic because they're not a defensive team. They don't put a lot of thought into that end of the floor. It's just a team that's going to outscore you. And assuming that that's going to be their approach, man, we're going to go up and down and we're going to do our thing. This could get out of hand for them. I think the Bucks could put up a huge number like they did against the Knicks. The only thing that would shock me would be Pacers winning by double digits. If they win at a buzzer beater, I guess, and it's the NBA, man, I'm not going to be shocked by that. My money would be on the Bucks to win the game, and I think more likely to be from between 12 and 20, the margin of victory. I think the Bucks are going to have a hard time. The Pacers are going to have a hard time slowing them down.
You said that the Pacers need to get 23s. They do lead the NBA in 23 games. This is a stat I kind of like tracking for whatever reason, because 23s is a fun benchmark. That's a huge scoring night from 3. They have 5 games this year where they made 20 or more threes. They're 4-1 in those games. The problem, Milwaukee's number 2 with 4. Milwaukee and Dallas both have 4 games with 23. So you're right. That is a strength of Indiana's, but it's a strength of Milwaukee's as well. What about the other side of things? What is the Bucks' advantage?
I think the Bucks' advantage is I think the Bucks do tend to play defensively according to how their offense is going. So if they're really rolling, then they tend to give up a lot of points too. It's just because it's easy for them. But I do think they've got the capability with their personnel to be able to marginally be better for chunks of the game if you need to be. It is part of their DNA with guys like Antetokounmpo and Lopez, on the floor. Chris Middleton, some of the role players that compete. They to me, I think, can affect the game a little bit more with their size. I think offensive rebounding is going to be a problem. I think tonight for the Pacers. And I think foul trouble could be an issue because I think Miles Turner. Obi Toppin, maybe Bruce Brown might even get some time on Giannis. Like I think foul trouble could be a problem for them as well, particularly if it ends up being Miles Turner and he gets in foul trouble, because Giannis is just going right at him and he'll just run through you and he gets some calls early in the game and Miles Turner has to go sit down for a bit. You got a real problem from a size standpoint.
Yeah. That is one of the huge risks, right? Is Dame and Giannis both draw an enormous amount of fouls, and the depth in the front court in particular is not, they're going to have a hard time there. So Miles Turner tonight has to have a big night. He can't get fouled. My big advantage was star power. And look, you could have said the same thing about the Boston Celtics. Star power. They've got all those different guys. And then Tyrese Halliburton shined brighter than anybody when it mattered most. That could happen tonight. If Tyrese Halliburton outperforms Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, the conversation gets even more out of control for Tyrese Halliburton, who's having an incredible moment right now. But when you say who's going to be the best player on the court tonight, and we had to draft who we thought, number 1 would probably be Giannis. Number 2 would probably be Dame. Number 3 would probably be Tyrese Halliburton. The fact that the two guys, the star power up top, Dame or Giannis, can win this game tonight with a phenomenal performance. Yeah. That's two guys who, by the way, are known for big performances.
Yeah, and that's listen. Basically, you just summed up what this is all about and why they acquired him. Right now, to have two guys on that level, and particularly adding a guy that can really do a lot of things late in the game that are different than what the Bucks have been able to do in the past. Damian Lillard with the ball in his hands late in the game, man, that's as dangerous as it gets. And so just the opportunities that could create for other people or just him settling matters himself. And I think one guy to look at for the Bucks that I think we're going to be talking about tomorrow because he has a huge impact on this game is Brook Lopez.
Is this your X factor?
He's my X factor for the Bucks. I do think you can only commit so much size that you don't have much anyway, and it's got to kind of go in the direction of Giannis. And I think the guys that are going to be rotating to Brook Lopez when he's spotted up at the 3, when you're rotating 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" type guys, right. He's got those are literally like naked looks to him when you get a 6'6" guy closing out on Brook Lopez. He's going to have such comfortability with his 3-point shot, and also I think. He gets on the offensive glass too. Like he goes down on the baseline sometimes and lurks, and there's just not much down there to keep him off. Even the other night, Pacers win that game, but Boston beat them up on the glass. And now you've got a team that's even bigger with Portis and Lopez and Giannis. I think Brook Lopez could have a big night in this one. I don't know that his impact defensively will be as great. Maybe because of all of the quick, fast-paced and 3-point shots the Pacers are going to take.
Yeah.
But then again, the other night, I don't think the Pacers win that game without the 2-point shots of Nesmith and Hield. Like those guys had huge 2-point shots. Halliburton had a couple drives. Porzingis is on the floor in that game. Maybe those don't happen. And now you got Brook Lopez back there. So if you make the Pacers really more one-dimensional with their perimeter shooting and they're not getting to the rim, I just think it's a big advantage for the Bucks. Obviously, you could tell I really like the Bucks to win this game.
You do. Yours is better than mine, but although I have a case for mine. Mine was Malik Beasley, and the reason is the line is enormous for this one. Over under. Vegas is expecting this to be a shootout because the Bucks can score, but I don't think the Bucks can stop the Pacers. The Pacers are still going to get some points, put up a big number. I'd be shocked if they were under like a 115, 120 tonight. So they're going to put up their numbers. And while Milwaukee has a lot of guys that can score and might score just as easy, if not easier, they need their role players to make shots. And Beasley, to me, represents the ultimate inflection point for them. He is a phenomenal shooter, but I don't know if he is a confidence shooter. If this game gets ugly down the stretch and he's on the court, which he typically is, they need him to be a floor spacer. And if I'm Indiana and it's a close game, I say Malik Beasley beat us with open shots. Because you're not going to stop the Bucks any other way.
I think that's a good take on Beasley, and I think he found the perfect landing spot, man. Because he's going to have a lot of nights where he feels real comfortable because they got those two guys on his team, and it's like they make up for a lot of mistakes. So he, the other night he started hitting shots. He starts doing the little hip twist, paso doble on the court. Right, you're like, this guy's really feeling good right now. But you're right.
They were up 15 or up 10 or something,
Make it a 106, 106 game with 6 minutes to go. And the Pacers have done a great job loading up on Giannis and trapping Dame. And now the ball's getting swung out and they're counting on you to make these shots to win the game.
Yeah.
That is a different feeling, man, than a game that's just basically that game the other night looked like a flat out pickup game. It looked like a pickup game. And a guy like Malik Beasley is going to thrive in that environment. You put him in a game where it slows down a little bit and you know the ball's going to be funneled to you. And these ones all really matter. That's a good point. I like that take.
My X factor on the other side for the Pacers was Benedict Mathurin. They are 6-0 when he scores 16 or more points. It's kind of a barometer for him. When he's 10 or under, I think they're like 2-6. So, an average game for him, 10 to 15, somewhere in there, goes either way. But when he has a big scoring night, and look, tonight, I just think it's going to be, you need guys to score a bunch of points. You mentioned the mid-range, one of the few guys on that team that I think is comfortable kind of getting there and pulling up. He had 26 when they beat Milwaukee earlier this year. I just think Pacers need all of their scores, and he's the one that's most capable of having a 20-point night tonight to give him that extra boost.
Well, then I'll take the other one, the other guy in that category from that team. That's Buddy Hield. So one of those two guys, maybe both, they have to put their imprint on the game where we're talking about them. You notice them. And then hopefully we get one moment like we had the other night where TJ McConnell goes into his Hakeem Olajuwon imitation and like he did the Luke Cornett, and he gives him, six pivots. I have that drill. I do it like for my 8 and 9 year olds at my basketball camp where they just work on the, pivoting and you keep it. And then the little scoop shot. If he does that to Giannis Antetokounmpo in a one-on-one situation, he gets that point, all right? That's worth 10 points to the Pacers. Like the reaction their bench has when he does stuff like that. So hopefully we get a fun moment. Listen, I hope it's not a blowout. Obviously, I want to see a close game, and I don't even care if it's high scoring. Let's give me some drama late, and let's see if how the Bucks handle that situation, and what the Pacers can do in that situation to slow down Damian Lillard, who will have the ball at this tight. But I worry about the Pacers' ability to string together stops in this game at any point.
Hey, I just want to say, man, what show can compare TJ McConnell to Hakeem Olajuwon, man? Only this show. Only the All-NBA show. Only
here do you get that, and do you find out how easy it is to double your money. That's all.
There you go.
You don't get that anywhere else, man. Only here. And by the way, I'm going to take Emma's advice, and if I hit, I'm naming my boat Emma's Parlay. That's going to be the name on the back of my boat. I'll tell you right now.
Oh, no. All right, we got to go quickly here through best matchup. And I have for this game, here's one angle. This is why I wanted to get to this one. The Pacers have had 2 off days to prepare for this. The Bucks just won. And the Pacers have the 11th winningest coach in the history of the NBA, Rick Carlisle. He's been around the block for a little bit. And on the other side, the Bucks have a rookie head coach. I do wonder, first round, there wasn't that much. This one, there was a lot of preparation. You go to Vegas and all of this stuff. I wonder if this one is more strategic. If it becomes more of an X's and O's matchup between two coaches, a la playoff series. And if so, Rick Carlisle should have a huge advantage tonight just in, hey, do they have a more detailed game plan for tonight?
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, Rick's just a great coach, great mind. I love watching how he has adapted and embraced this style of play over as opposed to some other teams that he coached. You go back to the defensive team he had in Dallas that he won a championship with, and what they were able to do playing 2 bigs and Tyson Chandler back there and all that. So now he's got this team, it's 4 guards and a 3-point shooting center, and we're just going to go up and down, man, and everybody has a green light. So I think Rick Carlisle, you do have an advantage there. But look, here's the thing. The matchup, it's clear to me. It's Lillard and Halliburton, but I don't think Damian Lillard can guard Halliburton very often.
At all.
Okay, first of all, that's not his wheelhouse. He's not a dude that wants to be out there fighting over ball screens, and you have to fight over on Halliburton. Halliburton's long. Lillard's not a big guard. They've got other guys that can do it. You can put Middleton on him. You can put Malik Beasley on him. Those are going to be the guys that get him, because you can always go put Lillard on a Buddy Hield. You can put Lillard on a Benedict Mathurin. You can get away with that because they're spotting up a lot. So there won't be necessarily a head-to-head matchup, but I'm just talking about in terms of flair and production and like I always say, pound that gavel. These are 2 elite level point guards. One guy that's been doing it for over a decade, at the highest level in this league. Another guy that is seemingly right before our eyes emerging as the next star in this league. And if you don't think Damian Lillard wants people to walk away from this game tonight saying that was the best guard on the floor, that he was, not Halliburton, you're wrong, man. So even though they're not going head to head and Halliburton probably will guard him a decent amount. I don't think Lillard guards him much at all, but that's not the point. It's production, flair, big moments, momentum shifts. Lillard is definitely going to want to bring something special with all of the attention that Tyrese Halliburton is getting right now.
I think that's going to be a really good one. Height advantage too. If he does get to match up with him, Halliburton should be comfortable. He's so much taller, so much longer. You were talking about Brook Lopez earlier, having he's not going to see a contest. Damian Lillard guarding Halliburton or running out at Halliburton, that's not a contest either. So, we'll see. I'm intrigued by this matchup. House money for the Pacers. They're in Vegas. They're going to have a good time. We'll see what happens. We're the only podcast in the world that went long on the Pacers and Bucks and short on the Lakers. So we have to be really quick right now while we fly.
I'll tell you one thing. You never get away with this on my network on ESPN. I tell you, I promise you that. They would have cut us off a long time ago.
We've got 4 minutes to preview the Lakers game tonight. So Pelicans, Lakers. Lakers are -2. They have not played each other yet. Just quickly, what's the Pelicans' advantage here?
I think the Pelicans' advantage is just, I think, overall punch in their starting lineup. And they're deep, man. They can go like 10 deep. And every guy they play has a very specific purpose to impact the game. So I just think overall, with McCollum, Ingram, Zion, Valanciunas, by the way, is more than serviceable. He's a guy that does damage. He had 18 and 11 the other night. You barely noticed it. Like, he's a very productive player. Then you got these slashers and three-point shooters, out there like Jones and Murphy. I just think that their overall talent level offensively is probably their biggest advantage. And then for the Lakers, I think it's Anthony Davis. I said to you before we came on, he was sensational the other night with his effort and just diving every time for offensive rebounds, multiple efforts on the glass, multiple efforts on his own misses, sprinting in from the three-point line when a shot was taken to get an offensive board, affecting the game defensively. He didn't have one of his biggest stat lines ever. I just felt Anthony Davis the whole game. I felt his presence. And so that's a big advantage for them. If he plays that way, they don't have great ability to deal with that. No team in the league does when Anthony Davis plays like that.
That's my best matchup tonight. That's why I like it. Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson probably guard each other a fair amount, but more importantly, it's just who impacts the game more, who has the bigger impact. And for me, that was my favorite, sort of if comparing two guys in this matchup.
The thing I didn't like about Zion the other night, if I can real quick, I just feel like Zion sometimes, like if guys get going, he's content to let them just kind of keep going, like on his own team. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think great players, of course, you're happy guys are playing one. You want to win, and you're winning. And I'm talking about mainly after the first quarter. The last three quarters, they really dominated that game. But he just seemed like, oh, you guys got it going. That's cool. I'm here. That's fine, man. You guys keep going. Like great players, they have so much pride in their stamp on the game. And so I want to see tonight, it's a game like this, man, and a prime time, like a big event game against the Lakers, LeBron, AD, does this get your best energy level? Because that's when he's special. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And I hope it's a close competitive game. And I hope all the guys we mentioned, they just go for this, man, and play as hard as we hope they will and they have been to this point to win this thing.
Who do you like tonight in that matchup?
Oh, my goodness, this is so hard.
I know.
I'm going to go with the Lakers. I'm going to go with the Lakers because of how they played the other night. And I just felt like they played to their strengths. And if I'm assuming they do that again, I just like a little bit more the certainty of what LeBron James is going to bring to something like this. And he will be the guy that controls the action. So I'm betting, I guess, on LeBron tonight.
Certainty is an interesting one because I think you're right. This is the whole thing about the Pelicans. They're so good at their best, but you never know what you're getting from them. I think they'll be strong tonight, but we'll see. I'll just for the sake of we can have something to talk about tomorrow, I'm going to take the Pelicans. So we both like the Bucks, and then I'll take Pelicans. You can take Lakers, and we'll see what happens. Man,
by the way, real quick, rumor has it they're going to start the game with one less timeout for the Lakers because they got robbed. That's just a rumor, though. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know if I heard that rumor yet. I'll tell you what, that would be the funniest way for it to end tonight. A controversial call down the stretch in the Lakers' favor would be pretty hilarious. I'm so pumped for this, man. I'm so pumped. The first round gave us some great games. The pool play gave us some great games. You have to imagine the circumstance of being in a different city, being in Las Vegas, just making this something unique. It's going to feel different than anything we've seen, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait to get to it.
By the way, real quick, is that first game at 5 Eastern?
Yeah, that's insane. That's like crazy that they did this. I don't understand why they did it.
There's a lot of people, I guarantee you right now, that are not aware that game is on at 5 o'clock because you're probably thinking, hey, it's Vegas. You know, you can do the back-to-back typical doubleheader. 7 and 9:30 or 7:30 and 10. You could do that because of the time change. They're going 5 and 8, right? 8 o'clock second?
Yeah.
Or 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock maybe.
Yeah, 9 o'clock Eastern. You're always doing Eastern times. Yeah, 9 o'clock. So, and think about this, Legs. That's 3 o'clock Mountain Time. That's 2 o'clock on the West Coast. That's 2 o'clock. This is a Thursday. People are at work. I don't understand why they did it this way. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it seems bizarre. But
I'm taking my 2-year-old to see Santa tonight, so I'm going to have to DVR the first game because that's right when we're going to be right when Santa, turns the lights on in a tree, man. What are you going to do?
There you go. Everybody, thanks so much for hanging out with us. The chat was great today, man. So much good stuff in the chat. It seems to be growing with our shows, the participation. We always love it. It's what makes this show special, is being able to talk and interact with you. I love doing these deep dives on teams. Tomorrow, we're going to go deep on what happened and then preview the finals, man. It should be fun. Legs, great stuff today.
Yeah, man, I'm going to double my money real quick. I'll be right back.
Let's go. Everybody, hit that like button on the way out.
All city like the mayor.